Alrighty. All right. So welcome everybody. My name is Isaac Martinez. I'm sure many of you already know me, but for those who don't, Isaac Martinez. I am the art teacher here at Laura Bush Middle School. I am currently in the process of getting my master's degree at Eastern New Mexico University. This is the graduate capstone project that I've been working on throughout this semester, on top of being a teacher. This has been a culminating project of a lot of research, a lot of man hours, and the purpose of this project is to hopefully bring a new system to the art department, starting small, and then eventually, hopefully, could maybe transfer to the rest of the district. Just a little bit of background of myself. I studied at Eastern New Mexico for my bachelor's. I graduated in, when was that? 2020, 21. Years already blending. Graduated 2021 with my bachelor's in fine arts with an emphasis of graphic design. I then decided to go the hard route and get my teaching certification alternatively. Went through that process and finished that up in a year. And now I decided to get the rest of the degree, which was the master's in secondary ed. So here I am. If all goes according to plan, I should be graduating in about 2 weeks. So far, this is my second year teaching. Taught 1 year in New Mexico at Clovis Municipal Schools, and then now 1 year here. And so far, I am loving the teaching profession. So to get started with our presentation, I'm going to be going over a little bit of sort of my project details. I will then lead into some of the standards that Eastern New Mexico uses to grade me as a teacher. Then kind of talk a little bit more of the research that I did to get this project going. And lastly, I will do a little bit more of a deep dive into my actual project. So a little bit of an overview of the project. I am hoping to develop I have developed a unified sort of lesson plan template, as well as a means to organize all of these lesson plans. Now, these aren't the day-to-day lesson plans. This is more of the general overview of a lesson. My main goal of this is to be able to have a single place that maybe department heads could access, or teachers from all over the district could access. Whether it's a new teacher, veteran teacher, they'll be able to access these plans that were made by other teachers from within the district. We know our kids best, so being able to have that sort of lesson plan set up and ready to go for these teachers is the main purpose behind this. One thing I forgot to mention, backing up one slide, there's sort of a secondary goal of this to kind of have a bit more of a community aspect. I'd like to be able to implement these changes, or not necessarily changes, but implement a way to kind of bring the community in a little bit more with the schools. These are a little bit of the courses that helped inspire my research that I was taking throughout my master's degree. This first one was the content area literacy. Now, this was a bit more of a deep dive into my personal content. Since I am a alternative license, I didn't go the usual route. Instead of taking the full 4 years of my bachelor's to get my ed degree, I just took 2. So the content literacy was definitely a deep dive into how to teach people art, okay? There were a lot of very specific research-based projects that I had to do throughout this that helped kind of shape the project that I had in mind to finish out my degree. The second one was the American curriculum history. This was another class that really heavily inspired the way I wanted to shape this. Now, my project originally was going to be a sort of curriculum plan. Now, I say that very loosely. Curriculum meaning sort of like a very loose sort of strategy on how to make sure that all of the different schools in the district are lining up together. So when the two middle schools finally converge into a high school, the kids that are in the art program through the entire time have the same skills, whether they come from Laura Bush or from Lubbock Cooper. After talking with many of my colleagues in the art department, they all said no. So I then changed it up a little bit and decided to go with the lesson plan bank rather than a full-blown curriculum. But this class still heavily inspired my project journey as well. Now, these INTAS standards, these are the standards that Eastern New Mexico uses to grade me as a teacher candidate. A few of them go through the basic knowledge that all teachers should have, as well as being able to effectively teach and effectively share my knowledge with the students. This first one here, the main goal is to essentially create a learning experience that is meaningful to students through my art-based classes. And again, just a little bit of why ENMU uses these standards, again, to create consistency of their teachers, quality of the teachers, just in general, having a good set of skills that these teachers have. Now, again, this first standard is one that I chose that I felt my project effectively communicated, being able to understand my content knowledge first before I start sharing that with my students. And again, with fellow staff and faculty with this project, being able to understand what I need to know first before I give it out is the main goal of this project. Applying the content as well is the second half of this. I should be able to, number one, know the information, and then number two, be able to display that in a way, which was essentially this presentation here, being able to show that information. And lastly, instructional strategies. Now, us as teachers in the room, we all know that instructional strategies are super, super essential. In this project, I feel that having the lesson plans all in one place, that would allow us to kind of collaborate, be able to share our strategies instead of being stuck at our own little campuses and our own little bubbles. So I feel like bringing out the instructional strategies, not only just with myself, but being able to share that with my colleagues as well. Now, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and start talking about some of the fundamental theorists. These were the gentlemen that researched this topic of education long before I was even born. Our first gentleman we're going to talk about is Jerome Berner. His main concept was the spiraling curriculum. Now, again, since I decided or wanted to start with a curriculum project, I used him as the foundation. I also feel that the arts is a sort of natural spiral-based curriculum. We all start out with the fundamentals of the elements and principles of art and design. So having those main basic concepts as a starting point, a foundation, and then slowly building on those and always coming back to those main concepts is just sort of a natural spiral. So I feel like Mr. Berner is one of the most fundamental forms of my project and why I used a lot of his research throughout. Mr. Vygotsky, his zone of proximal development was the, thank you, one of the cornerstones of my research, and I used, or sorry, my project that I used his research for. Being an art teacher, and especially being a second-year art teacher, I definitely found out that the zone of proximal learning is essential. I felt that a lot of the times I would try and do projects, especially my first year, that were a little bit too advanced, and it ended up just frustrating my students. They'd get upset because it didn't come out how they wanted, and it was just a mess all around. So after kind of understanding a little bit more of this has definitely helped benefit my teaching style, and I believe has also benefited the students as well. And just being able to implement these designs into the project and the lesson bank overall, another reason why I chose him. And the last gentleman we're going to talk about is Mr. John Dewey. I used him in many different facets of my project. The first one being his experience. My goodness, I cannot talk. Experimental learning. He decided to do research into students kind of figuring things out on their own. The arts, again, in my opinion, is sort of the best way to do that. It's okay to fail in the arts. Even if your stuff doesn't look good, it still looks pretty decent. So that is kind of my philosophy on learning, especially in the arts. Throughout my time in college, I definitely learned the hard way a lot of times just trying to figure something out. And I definitely feel like I learned a lot more failing something versus than succeeding every single time. Again, Mr. John Dewey uses the interactive art exploration, kind of tying back into the experimenting. Being able to just go out and try different things, being able to learn at your own pace, try new things as you would like, is another very important form of learning, in my opinion. Up on the screen are a couple examples of some work that I did throughout the semester and throughout the year. The students were learning the very basics of drawing with shadows, as well as more advanced things like ceramics and combining digital with physical artworks. I was really trying to get a very large blend of different mediums just to show students what is out there. Adapting all of this stuff into the project is, again, just showing those different ways of having multiple lesson plans, being able to share these with my colleagues in a efficient manner, and just being able to collaborate amongst ourselves as well. And again, hitting that secondary objective of my project is developing an artist community. Now, this was a picture of our LCP art show that happened this year. I had a lot of my students' artwork in that show, and just being able to see the students and being able to see their reaction, especially if they didn't make it to the show, and I surprised them by not telling them that their work made it into the show. Seeing that sort of facial expression light up once I said, hey, your artwork made it in the show, here it is. It was priceless every single time. I am a very big proponent of having students in shows as well as just showing their work. Many of you guys probably saw a lot of the work that I had in the hallways, and just really trying to get the students to understand that even though they're not a major artist or a famous artist, they can still put their stuff on display. And again, just a couple more pictures. These pictures on the top and on the far right of the screen are pictures of some students that made it into the Eastern New Mexico University K through ENMU art show. This is a art show where students' work is selected based on a certain criteria. Students, not every single student who submits work actually makes it in. So this is a bit of a juried show. These two in particular also were able to move on to the second round, which normally only Eastern students can participate in. However, they showed very good promise and were elevated to the next round. So just being able to have that experience with the kids and show them like, hey, this is what you guys did, is just a really, really important important fact of the arts. This bottom picture down here is a picture of the most recent project that we finished up in my class. They were working with ceramics. And again, just trying to show them like, even though you struggled through this project, you still made something that looks amazing in the end. And again, just kind of hitting a little bit more on the developing community. Now, this picture right here is probably a picture a lot of the LCP staff know. For the folks that are on video, the LCP Learner is a poster that was made by the district. The board members and community members got together and decided exactly what should go on this poster. And it just kind of represents what would be a student from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade as they're here in LCP. So these are sort of the things that they will know, understand, and have that foundation for. The portrait of an LCP artist is something that I created, and in collaboration with my art colleagues, we kind of put this together just to kind of show what would happen if a student started in the arts from 6th grade to 12th grade. And these would be the fundamental bits of information that they would know by the end. Again, just trying to bring together the parental element with the students and the teachers to have that nice triangle. I'm going to take a quick drink real quick. All right, so just kind of getting a little bit more into the actual project. So I have created a sort of template for teachers to fill out. This is a combination of different Google suites. So we have the first part, which is a Google form. Now, this is a pretty common occurrence for teachers. We're always filling out Google forms. So being able to input your lessons just like how you normally would into this Google form, and then it is automatically sorted into a template, renamed, and automatically put into folders that are sorted by school, grade level, and which teacher is at that school. So this first piece right here is just kind of a basic outline of what the form would look like, and I will take us through a little bit more on what that form looks like in detail in a moment. Here is the template. So this is kind of the brain of how this entire setup works. So as teachers fill out the form, once they click submit, it goes into a processing form, and then that auto-populates all of the information they have in the section over here, and then that is what is generated into their folder, their unique folder. This essentially just allows teachers to have a easy to read, easy to understand lesson plan format, which is unified by all of the campuses. So that way, even if there's a teacher that needs to cover for another at, let's say, from LBMS to LCMS, we still understand the lesson plans. Everything's the same. And again, this is a little bit of a breakdown of how the folder system would work in Google Drive. So you would start out with, say you work here at LBMS, click on your LBMS folder, transition over to Visual Arts, click on Visual Arts, and then you would have all of your lesson plans laid out for you. All you have to do is just go in, click which one you want, and then you have all the information you need. Being able to access this information just with a couple simple clicks will, again, just make things a little bit more efficient, be able to have information shared between teachers without having that constant clutter of a Google Drive, and then being able to just share that knowledge with other teachers. I know as a first year or second year teacher now, having something as a sort of starting point is invaluable. I know having to make my own lessons from scratch every single week has been a little bit of a challenge for the past 2 years, but I've also learned a lot on how to create good lessons and how to spot bad lessons from starting. I feel like this project would mainly benefit the newer teachers if they are just starting in the teaching profession. Just having that solid foundation of good lessons that are made, curated by other teachers, and know that they work, I think is a just massive boon to those new teachers. For veteran teachers, I feel like this would still be a very nice resource because we all have had those days where we've tried a lesson, it's worked every single year, and then one time a grade level just doesn't click with the lesson anymore. doesn't make sense. Everyone's mad. Don't know why the lesson didn't work this time. So just being able to hop on the Google Drive real quick. Okay, this lesson, we'll try this. It's similar. Give it a shot. Maybe it works. Or if you are sick, we've all had those days waking up at 5 in the morning and we're not feeling good, instant lesson plan. So just having those different options, different avenues for teachers to take, whether they are new or if they're a veteran. This next slide is a QR code. If you guys would like, you could scan that. It will take you to the form directly to where you can kind of play with it, try it out. If you submit anything, it'll just be auto sorted. So don't worry about that. The next one is another QR code. This one will take you to the Google Drive itself. So this is where you can kind of see how everything is formatted. You could look around. I'm still slowly getting more data sheets to be populated. So as I get those will autofill. And then this last slide, my resources. And that is it. Thank you. If you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Same thing for anybody online.
I just couldn't see what was on the form.
Oh, okay.
Not necessarily the form. You had the portrait of the LCP learner,
Yes.
and then your art one. What are those categories? Sorry, I'm not.
No worries. So I kind of went over, have the, like a picture of a student, and I have the head, the heart, the hands, the voice, and the feet. So sort of the main sort of like vocab words of each section. I'll just read a couple. So for the head, we have ideas, scholars, and artists. For the heart, we have emotional, soul of expression, colorful. For the hands, builders of beauty, artists in action. For the voice, sorry, a little hard to read. Storyteller, artistic, and advocate. And then for the feet, path makers and dream chasers. And then it just gives a little blurb of what that means. Let me go ahead and pull up those forms and such really fast, just so that way you guys have an idea of what that looks like too. For the folks online, give me just a quick second to transfer that screen share back over. So here we could see the lesson plan submission form. So it asks a few basic questions at the start. So obviously the teacher's name, what campus they're at, and what artist level they are working at. So whether it's a beginning art, advanced art, we can distinguish between. The next set of questions is the TEKS. Now the TEKS, as we here in Texas, is the standards. For the folks in New Mexico, is basically the equivalent of the standards of New Mexico, just called something different. And then the teacher would select whichever TEKS apply, and that distinguishes between the high school and the middle school TEKS. The next set of questions is sort of the actual lesson. So talking about the lesson title, what medium they're working with, what subject matter, so on and so forth. The next section, again, if there is any potential pictures that are used for examples or talks about materials, whatever else is necessary for the lesson to work properly. And then again, the last part is more of the activities, what goes on throughout the day for the lesson. And again, this isn't a daily lesson plan. This is more of like a general overarching how to do this lesson. Kind of think of it like if you got a lesson plan from Teacher Pay Teacher, only this is from the school. And then once you fill everything out, click submit. Everything gets transferred to this next slide. So right now I have it just under my personal submission. I think I clicked on the wrong one. It's not wanting to pop up. I know why. Give me one quick second. Sorry. It's not wanting to pop up. But what it essentially will look like is just like how I had on the slides, where you have the organized by campus, goes into further detail on what teacher, what grade, things like that. So with just a few clicks, you can get that pulled up where you need to go. But that is essentially everything. I'm not sure if anybody online has any questions. You are free to ask.
Good job, Isaac.
Thank you.
I think I'm especially interested in how this will help, like those days, like you said, you wake up at 5:30 and you can't make it to school because you're physically not able to, how this will be so helpful, because if whatever you had planned, if it's something that's beyond the scope of a substitute, you could go in there, you could find something that they could do, and learning continues.
Yes. Awesome. I think if there's nothing else, thank you guys so much for coming. I very much appreciate it. If you guys would like, there's still plenty of snacks. If you'd like anything, feel free to take some on the way home. I certainly should not be eating all those cookies. But thank you again so much for coming. And thank you everybody online who came. I very much appreciate the support. Thank you. Alrighty. I do have to meet with my professor for just a few moments, but if you have anything else, I will be around for a while. Thank you.
Good job, Isaac.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job, son.
Thank you.
Isaac,
Go ahead and stop the recording real fast.